Hello everybody and welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name is Erin and we're going to cover a bunch of stuff today in this video. So it may turn out to be a rather long video, and so if I have to do it in parts, that's just what I'll do. But we're going to take a look at a few things today, some questions that I think I get asked more than any other question in the coloring hobby. And those two questions are, how do you do shadow and light? And how do you know where to put the colors on your coloring page? So we're going to do the best we can today to cover these two questions, and I'm going to do it using small sets of budget-friendly pencils. I have 24 Crayola, 24 of the Fantasia Artist, and 24 of the Faber-Castell Eco Pencils. So we are going to be working in Enchanted Forest because there is a picture in here that I think is going to suit what I want to do very well. As soon as I locate it. There we go. This one. And the reason I chose this one is because it has a lot of individual objects, so it won't take me so long to show you how things kind of work. So some of the tools I'm going to be using, of course, my small sets of budget-friendly pencils. I have my coloring glove on so I don't get oils from my hand onto the paper. I have my brush so I can brush away any dust we might get. I have a white Posca pen. If you have one of these, fantastic. If you don't, a white gel pen should probably do the trick too. This isn't necessary. By any means, it is not necessary, but they are really fun to have. And then I also have an extra small, or a small brush. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's an SB PITT Artist Pen soft brush. And this is what the tip of it looks like. It's very, very, very fine on the end. And this comes in really handy for, like, if you use a light color and you cover up the lines on something and you want to get them back, if you want to darken up pupils, anything like that, this is where it's at, because it doesn't go through paper like this, usually. So I'm going to take a drink here of my Lipton Brisk lemonade and we will get started. So, first things first, when we are trying to figure out shadows and light, the first thing that you need to do is choose where your light is coming from. So I'm going to use this little pink dot. We're going to work on this little mushroom right here, and we're going to say that the light source is on this side. Don't worry, I can take this back off. So the light is this way and it's pointing down at our mushroom from this direction. Okay. So the first thing that you want to think about before you even put pencil to paper, the most important part of this is going to be your highlight, because you want to preserve a highlight. Once you've colored over your paper, it's going to be really hard to get it back to light, and we don't want to do that. We want to leave it as light as we possibly can. I'm sorry here, guys, I'm digging pencils out. If I can find the pencils I want, that is. Is there not a regular red in this entire box of Crayolas? That's interesting. We got mahogany. Bear with me just a minute. We're going to do oranges and reds because it's easier that way, I think, personally. Oranges and reds are easy colors to learn this with. And I don't see just a regular red. That is interesting. That's okay. We'll make red-orange work. So the first thing you want to do is preserve your highlight. And since the light source is coming this way, this is going to be the part that's going to be highlighted, okay? So what you want to do is you want to imagine, I'm going to use my little Clara Markova bookmark here, all of this is light source, right? From here to here, the light is all coming this way. So you want to think about, if you had this mushroom in front of you, a 3D object, and you were shining a light at it this way, where would the shadows be? Well, this is going to block the light. This part here is going to block the light. So all of this technically is going to be in shadow. So we don't have to really preserve any highlights here. This is all going to be darker. And you can still put some shadow and some light in there, just to give it some interest. Of course, you don't want to color the whole thing the same color. You can if you want to. But let's put this into practice. So I'm going to use a golden yellow Crayola colored pencil. And I'm going to start putting this where my lightest part of the mushroom would be. And that's going to be all on this side. This whole area. And I'm going to go very, very lightly. I'm going to avoid the little spots. And we're going to pull it down around this little corner, but just a little tiny bit, because back here in the back it's still going to be in shadow too. So we only want to pull it around that corner just a little. Alright, so next we are going to use orange, and we're going to put that as our main color. That's going to be the actual color of the mushroom. So we're going to very, very lightly bring that up into the yellow. These pencils are kind of warm. They've been in my car. So there's more pigment coming down from them than what I had expected there would be. But that's quite alright. I'm just going very, very lightly. Very, very light hand. And we're going to put this over most of the mushroom. And if it looks streaky right now, we're not even going to worry about it. That's perfectly okay if it looks kind of streaky. And if I get over the little dots, that's what a Posca's for. Alright, so then we've got our orange. Now I'm going to take the red orange, which is the only red in my box of Crayolas, which is strange. I could have sworn there was a regular red in there. We're going to take this and we're going to put it on the back. This is the part that is furthest from the light source. Now, I just want to explain to you guys, I am not an art teacher. Was not an art major. I don't know everything that there is to know about art. This is how I do it. There are better ways to do this. There is reflected light. There's all kinds of different things that you can learn. So if you know more about this than I do, let me just go ahead and say right now, I am not claiming to be an expert. This is how I do it. This is how I make things look the way they look. So now you have your red back here. I'm coming back in with orange. And I'm blending it into the red. And moving it back out toward yellow. And I'm getting a little bit lighter as I get closer to the yellow, so I can bring the yellow in just a little bit more for my blend. And remember, our light's over here. So this is the lightest part, the normal part, and the part that's in shadow. As it moves backward, the light is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's why we're going to have a gradient from light to dark. Alright, so now one more time with yellow. I'm going to bring the golden yellow back in. And we're going to pull it out into the orange. I'm going with a harder pressure now. Alright, and then back in with orange. Oh, that's not orange, that's red. Back in with orange. And I'm trying to soften the transition just a little. Now, one thing to remember is that in real life, shadows don't always have a soft transition. In fact, a lot of times with shadows, there are harsh lines, and sometimes that's what you want to create. It all depends on what you're doing. But this example is just to show you how you would create a gradient in a situation where the light is just gently getting weaker and weaker and weaker and less as it gets to the back of the mushroom. Alright, so the top of the mushroom, we're going to call that finished. We can come back in with another color and do the dots. I'm just going to leave them white. So since the light is coming from this direction, we have this whole underside of this mushroom to concern ourselves with. Well, there's not going to be a highlight there, really. There could be. If this mushroom is on the ground, right? The mushroom's on the ground. we have the light coming this way. Some of this light is going to come around the mushroom, hit the ground, and then bounce back up toward the mushroom. Now that's where things start to get a little bit complicated, and that's why I said, you know, we're not really going to worry too awful much about that. But we're going to do this part brown. So I've got light brown and regular brown, and I'll show you how I would color this if it was my, it is my picture, but how I would color it otherwise. So what I would do is take my light brown, and we're going to come back in and go around the rest of this mushroom back here too. I forgot about the back edge of it. Oops. So we're going to put the brown, light brown, just a light layer on this underside portion here. And then what I'm going to do is take my regular brown, get it nice and sharp, and I'm going to take it around this back edge. Ooh, that's a nice rich brown. It's been a while since I've colored with Crayolas. So I'm pulling it back around the back edge back there, just in the back. And then I'm going to go around the stem of the mushroom with it. And then I'm going to feather it. I'm going to feather the dark brown, the regular brown, as I get up toward the center. Because the way we're viewing it, if there is light being reflected, we're not going to see the light behind the stem. It's going to appear that it's a little bit darker back here. So I'm just going to gradually feather this as I get closer to the center. And then I'll come back in with my light brown, and we'll go back over everything. We're going to use a harder pressure now just to fill everything in. And there you go. Now you have a nice little gradient. And that was really easy. It's all about just thinking about how things would look. If you absolutely have to, go get yourself a lamp, like a little desk lamp, and get an object, right? Any object that you want, as long as it's got some shape to it, whether it's a water bottle, a pencil sharpener, something that you can stand up. And then take your lamp and put it where, kind of in the same angle that you would put it in your coloring picture. And then at that point, you can kind of look and see, where are the shadows falling? Where is the brightest part of this object? And then you can use that, you can compare it to the object that you're coloring on your page. Point to the right place, Erin. You can compare that to what you're coloring on your page and put that into practice. So now to color the rest of this, I'm going to come back in with the red. And I'm going to go all the way, almost all the way back to the yellow. And I left just that little spot there. Just that little spot to put the orange. Now the top of the mushroom is finished. Alright, so for the stem, it's kind of the same principle. I'm going to go with an even lighter brown, so I've got a tan. Now, since we have the reflective light, the light is coming down this way, hitting the ground and bouncing back up toward the mushroom. What I want to do is I want to leave kind of the center area of the mushroom a little bit lighter, because that's what our eyes are going to see. We're going to make it look like it's curved according to the reflective light that's coming off the ground. And I'm making a whole lot of assumptions here, guys. So we're going to color this mushroom stem. Then I'm going to take my light brown Crayola, and we're going to put this up toward the top. We're going to pull it down, still using light pressure. We're going to put it around the very edges, still using very light pressure. Just getting my colors in first to make sure I like the way it looks, and lighter as I get toward the center. And so I have just this little wee area here in the middle that is still just the tan color, and that's all I need. Now I'm going to take my dark brown, regular brown. I gotta stop saying dark brown. It's just regular brown. And we're going to kind of follow Johanna's little guidelines here that she's given us. We're going to pull it down about as far as these little marks. And that's it. Then I'm going to gently outline the outside of the mushroom on that side. And once again, I'm going to outline the mushroom on this side. That's it. That's all the brown for the sides. And then I'm going to pull it up down here just a little bit. And now if you guys are have been watching my channel for a while, you know what happens next. We go backwards. So we take our middle color, which is light brown, and we blend out the brown, the regular brown. And I'm just using a very, very light pressure and going over it multiple times instead of pressing hard. And then you can still see I still have that light area there in the middle. So I'm going to take my tan and I'm just going to use a medium heavy pressure and go right over that. Now once you've done that, if you feel like you've lost too much of your contrast, you can come back in with your darker colors and build it right back up again. As long as you haven't burnished the paper, and as long as you haven't done a million layers, because these are Crayolas after all, there's only so much they can, I mean, they work well, but there's only so much they can do. Alright, so I'm putting my contrast back in. There we go. And that's a finished mushroom if the light source is coming from this way. Now if you wanted to, since this is the darker area back here, you could pull this out just a little bit out into the middle, but it's really not necessary. And here's the thing, guys. When you're coloring a picture in a coloring book, there are very, very few people in this world who are going to say, oh, that one shadow is misplaced and it shouldn't be there. Oh my goodness. Most people are never even going to notice. As long as you have attempted to do your highlights and shadows and you've thought it through for every object that you've colored, it's gonna show in your work. It's gonna show, it's gonna look really, really nice. And it's gonna look, I'm not gonna say realistic because clearly this mushroom doesn't look realistic, but it does look more dimensional and more interesting. Alright, so now that we have our mushroom done, I'm gonna put the Crayola pencils back. I should have picked colors beforehand, but I didn't. I was in such a hurry to get this video going that I didn't do it at all. And now we're going to go with the Faber-Castell Eco Pencils. Let me pull some out. This whole little thing slides out. It's really cool. So I'm going to grab some greens. Let's see. Is that the only two greens I have? Maybe I need to pull another green from the Crayolas too. Alright, let's see what colors we have. Because I don't have swatches for these either. Because I'm a bad colorist today, you guys. Bad, bad me. Alright, so this is Jade Green from Crayola. This is... These colors are kind of hard to tell apart. This is the lighter green from the Faber-Castell. This is the darker green from the Faber-Castell. Those colors don't really match too well, do they, guys? Let's try this dark green out of the Crayola. What is this? This regular green from Crayola. New. I'm trying to find 3 colors we can use here, guys. I am so sorry that I did not come more prepared than this. Look in the Fantasia Pencils. What's this color? There we go. So we're going to use this color from the Fantasia Pencils. So this color 30 from the Fantasia Pencils will be our light. Then we have a medium green in our Faber-Castell color grip. And then we have a darker green in the Faber-Castell color grip. Now there's not a whole lot of difference between these two Faber-Castell greens, which kind of, I don't know, it just seems odd to me that a company that usually pays so much attention to their stuff would put 2 greens that are so similar in the package. Really strange. So we're going to work on a leaf now. We're going to just do this one down here next to the mushroom. And we're going to switch up our light source. We're going to put it this way. We're going to put it on the bottom. So the light is shining now this way, right? So the light's coming this way, hitting the leaf, and then going on somewhere else. There's a couple ways you can do this. Now, if the light's hitting the leaf dead on, you'd have light, medium, and dark. If the leaf is turned a little bit and you can make it look like it's kind of curved outward, bowed outward a little bit, you'll have your lighter color here all through the center, gradually getting darker out toward the ends. And that is actually my favorite way to color a leaf. And that's what I'm going to show you today. And that works no matter where your light source is. You can almost always make that work. So we're going to start with the Fantasia number 30. If you guys don't have this pencil, that's fine. Use whatever you have if you're trying to follow along. Color any object, any leaf with any pencil color you want. Just make sure you have a light, medium, and dark if you're following. So I'm going to put a very, very light coat of this all over the leaf, even out to the edges. And you got to be careful with doing it this way, especially with these super waxy pencils, the budget-friendly pencils, because you're not going to get as many layers out of them. So you might find that by the time you get to your darkest color, there's not enough room. So we're going to do this just a little bit different. I still like to have my lightest color down as a base first, because I feel like when I come back in with my darker colors, having this little base down already kind of helps the colors slide. It helps them blend together. So I'm just putting this down all over the leaf. And then we'll go ahead and get the little stem too. Okay, then we're going to take the Faber-Castell pencil and we're going to go around the edges. We're going to go around the edges first, and we're going to pull it out toward the center. I'm already struggling to get this color on here. You guys can probably see on camera. I'm looking at the screen as I'm coloring, and it looks like it may even be hard for you to see already. So hopefully it's showing up better on the video than it looks like it's showing up on my computer screen. So basically what's going to happen is by the time I'm finished with this lighter green is going to be our highlight. This green will be the actual leaf color. Now then, if you wanted to do this the other way, to where it looked like your light is coming this way and you want your light to get weaker and weaker and weaker as it goes back, then what you would do is leave this here and then put your middle color from here down and then put your darker color around the bottom. And that's one way of doing it. There are so many ways of coloring leaves. So many ways. And of course you don't have to do all green. You can make your leaves blue or purple or red or, you know, whatever you feel like. So this isn't necessarily so much a lesson in, you know, where is your light source. This is in how do you highlight a leaf. How do you give a leaf a highlight? Because this will work for almost any light source. Now if you have a whole great big bunch of leaves, like on a tree, then you're not necessarily want to think about every individual leaf. You want to think about the shape of the tree itself. And that seems, if you thought about every individual leaf and where the shadows would be, you would be there all day long. Trust me, I've been there and done that. I've colored a picture like that before. And when it was done, it was probably one of the better things I've ever colored. But it took me forever. So now I'm going in with my darkest green in the Faber-Castell Eco Pencil. And I'm going to go around with I can use a heavy pressure now because this is the last color. So I'm kind of outlining in a heavy pressure. And I'll probably pull it out a little bit more even than this. I'm trying to keep my hand to where you guys can see what I'm doing here. So hot here today, guys. I'm in Kentucky and it's like 93 degrees outside right now. It's miserable. And it's only May. I don't know what we're going to do when it's August. We're all going to melt probably. Alright, so now that that's in, I'm going to go ahead and just go around Using a circular motion, I'm going to pull this color out just a little more so we can get a nice gradient going. Okay, and I'm going to come back around this way. Alright, so that's the darker. Now I'm going to come back in with the middle green again, and we're going to go down into that darker green. We're going to use a medium pressure now, and go down into that middle green, and we're going to lighten our pressure as we come toward the center so we can create a nice gradient. We want the center of this leaf to look almost white still when we're finished, because that's where we're going to put our lightest color, and that's going to be the highlight. I'm using a circular motion. I'm using moderately heavy pressure on the outside, and then as I get closer to the light color, I'm letting my pressure go. Very light pressure around this part. Alright. Alright, so now that that's ready, I'm going to take my Fantasia pencil again. This is the number 30, very, very light green. And I'm going to start back in the middle green, and I'm using a moderately heavy pressure. I'm just covering everything that's left using ovals, just coloring in ovals. And that is one way of coloring a leaf, so that if your leaf is this way and your light source is here, and the light's coming up and hitting the center of the leaf, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be faded as it goes around the edges. Now there are other ways that you can color a leaf. That's just one way, and this one's the easiest, I think, because you can use it for if your light's pretty well anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. So let's do a different one. Let's come over here and do this one right here. So now we're going to say that our light source is up here again, right? So this area back here is going to be our darkest area. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to follow what Johanna's given us. We're going to put our lighter colors here. Because this is the way the sun is shining onto it. Let me turn this way. The sun is shining on it this way. So this is where the lightest color goes. I'm going to skip putting a layer down over here, and we're going to go straight to the darker color. This is going to be the darkest part. This and this is going to be the darkest part because it's the area that is furthest away. So I'm going to go ahead and put this color in. And I'm using a light pressure because I am still going to want to blend this out. And then everything else is going to be kind of a medium color. So I'm going to put a little bit more of this light green, very, very lightly, out into the other areas. And then I'm going to put just a super light layer of this very dark green right here, just so we can get a nice little gradient going, pulling it up. And then all I have left to do is take my middle green after I sharpen it. These are pretty soft for some budget pencils. I've only used these a handful of times. And then we're just going to blend this into our light green. And we're also going to blend it into our dark green. These two colors are very, very similar. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see much of the difference on that on camera, but we'll hope you can. I'm going to come back with my light green. I think I'm actually going to put a little bit of it over here, just to kind of lighten that up some. And I'm going back in. I'm going to be a little bit more careful with my layers on this one, because the colors are placed in such a way that they are not, it's not a smooth gradient for all three colors. Okay, now I'm going to come back in with middle green again. When I say middle green, I'm assuming that you guys are using 3 pencils, a light, a medium, and a dark, all in the same family of colors, or all the same color. Like a light red, a middle red, and a dark red, or an orange, a yellow, an orange, and a red. Any colors you want. Then I'm going to come back one more time with the dark green. We're going to put it down here. I'm going to use a heavier hand this time though, because I'm really trying. Now with this leaf, you can really tell the difference. Here is your dark color, or here's your your dark color. Here's your sun. It's coming this way. So this is where it's hitting the leaf, and that's where it's lightest. And as it moves back this way, it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Now you could even put a little bit of your dark green here if you wanted to. Not too much, but some, because it's going to be pretty dark there as well. And we can skip the light green altogether for the stem. We'll just skip it, and we'll go straight into the dark. And that's all there is to that. So it's actually pretty simple. Alright, so let's do one more object, and this one will be a little bit trickier, but we'll show you how to do it. So for this one, I want some colors. Of course I want some colors. We're going to do the Fantasia Pencils with this one. Let me see what colors I have here. So we've got a pink, a purpley pink. Oh, that's a little too dark. Let's try this one. That's too close to that one, I think. Like a magenta. Nope, that's not going to work either. Let's try the Faber-Castell purple. That'll work better. That'll do. Okay, so just so you know what I was doing, we have this color, right? We have our pink. Then we have something that's kind of like a magenta. It's a cross between a pink and a purple. And then I was trying to find a dark color, and I came up with this one first. And if you notice by looking at it, it's got a pretty blue undertone. Well, these two colors are red undertones, so this doesn't really match those two well. When I found this one, it's not quite as blue, and it's a little bit lighter, so it should be easier for us to create a gradient with that one, and that's what we're going to do. So now, let me zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. Alright, so sharpen everything up nice and sharp. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lightest color, which is my pink from the Fantasia Artist set. And again, you can use any pink you have, any color you have. And very lightly, these pencils are pretty pigmented, so very lightly I'm going to go over the whole thing. And in this case, I'm not going to use a dot. I'm going to assume that our light is coming straight down like this, straight down at it, just like this. And if you don't feel like putting all the trouble into doing your whole light and shadow thing, doing it this way is the easiest way. So you're just going to imagine that the light is shining straight down onto your paper. I'm going to take my middle color, and I'm going to look at these berries. And at this point, you are going to color this not because your light source is over here or over here. You're going to color it based on how your berries overlap. So the parts where your berries are tucked in and behind, that's where you want to go a little darker. So for this one, we can just kind of go along the bottom. This one we're going to go this way. Remember that you're not going to put very much color here because we have to preserve our highlight. If we color over our highlight with a darker color, it's going to be really, really hard to take that color out. Colored pencils do erase, but not that well. And erasing colored pencil damages the paper, and we don't want that either. And if you have to erase, by all means erase. But for the most part, we don't want to have to erase. So I want to leave just a small, small area here of the highlighted part of each little individual section of the berry. And I'm coloring the darker colors where the berries, the little bumps of the berry, whatever they're called, where they tuck in, where they're surrounded by other bits. And for this one, it's going to be this way. And I'm going to color in a circle and leave just a little area there in the center. Same here. I'm going to go in a circle. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing okay and where I'm leaving my highlights. Got it zoomed in about as far as I can before it's going to start getting blurry on you guys. And yes, this is tedious, and this is why doing this isn't right for everybody. If you don't have very much patience for things like this, this is not going to be for you, especially if you're coloring a really detailed picture with lots and lots of little small objects, because then you're going to have to stop and look at every single object that you color and say, okay, where is the light source coming from? What is this object going to look like when the sun hits it? Where is the shadow going to be when the shadow casts? Where is it going to be? Because when you're coloring a cohesive picture, you have to not only think about what your object is going to look like, but what effect is that object going to have on all the other objects based on where your light source is. And it can get kind of complicated. But like I said, if you take a small lamp or even a flashlight and shine it at an object, any object that you have, in the direction that you imagine it coming from in your coloring book, you can start to get a really good idea of what things look like. And over time, it'll just start to come naturally to you. You won't have to think about it so much. And if you choose this method, the light straight down method, it comes pretty easy. You don't have to worry so much about the effect of other objects, because you only have to worry if an object's behind another object, like this one, because we have all these things tucked back in behind the berries. So, now that that's finished, I'm going to take my Color Grip dark color, and we're just going to kind of almost just outline in some areas. This pencil's a little chalky, so I got to be careful. We're going to put this nice sharp tip just back in the areas where it tucks in. Can you guys see that okay? Let me see if I can zoom you in maybe just a little bit more without blurring everything. There. So I'm just putting it back where the berries, little bits of berry. What are these things called? Does anybody know? The little bits and bobs that make up like a raspberry or blackberry. Because this is a berry. The little things I'm coloring are not berries. They are something else, and I forget what they're called. I know they have a name. You guys can really see now what I'm doing with these here. I've got to go fix some supper here in a little bit as well. I'm excited. I'm making chicken tenders. Yum, yum. It's about 4:45 in the afternoon on Saturday. It is Memorial Day weekend in the United States. So lots of people are getting a nice long weekend, as it is a federal holiday also. So people are going to get a nice long weekend. If you live in a part of the country with a really warm climate, this is when all the swimming pools, lakes, ponds, all that stuff, usually when everything opens up for swimming, is Memorial Day weekend. It's just too hot for us. We've all been in the house. So I'm still just going around doing the same thing, putting this dark color back where the little bits and bobs of the berry tuck behind each other. I'm just kind of outlining, really. I'm not paying too much mind to anything. Okay, so there is that. Now I'm going to come back in with my darker pink, my middle color, and I'm going to use a little bit heavier pressure. I'm going to try to blend that purple out. Remembering to save my highlights. I don't want to ruin those highlights. Those need to be there. And this is where I'm going to show you how to do Posca. If you don't have a Posca, you can use any white gel pen. Some white gel pens are better than others, however, so please keep that in mind. Not all gel pens will go over all pencils. Not all gel pens are created equally by any means. I really do prefer the Posca to any gel pen. The Jelly Roll used to be my favorite, but then I learned I missed a spot right here. But then I learned that it doesn't like to go over Prismacolor very well without getting clogged up, and that's not good. We can't have that. Well, I take that back. It'll go over certain types of paper with the Prismacolor. If it's smooth paper, forget about it. Not happening. Alright, and then I'm coming back in with my light pink once I've got all that blended out. And I'm going to use a light pressure here. I don't want to burnish it, because if I burnish it, I'm going to mix these colors together too much and you're not going to be able to see the light spots anymore, and we don't want that. And this is what's going to give objects dimension. And I picked this because it is kind of a tedious thing to color. But it's a perfect example of what you can do when you take the time to sit and think about what something will look like based on the way the light is hitting it. Alright, and there we have it. There is the berry. But because my pink isn't very light, I don't really like the way the highlights look. So I'm going to take my Posca. If you've never used a Posca pen before, let me show you how this works. Okay, so it has a tip like this. This is a super fine white, and this is what the tip looks like. It has a shaker in it, so when the lid's on, shake it up really good. Then you're going to pump it a couple times to get the paint flowing. And then what I do is I just barely touch the tip to the paper. I'm going to put a little white dot in the same little places where my lightest pink colored pencil is on my paper. This one little tool that takes you about 30 seconds tops to prepare and put on the page makes such a huge difference. Now, something else to do, if you feel like that white is too stark, like the difference is too drastic, you can come back in once it's completely dry. You can come back in with your lightest colored color pencil and just very, very lightly go over it. And you can color over that Posca. So that is an option too. I happen to like the way this looks. I like it because when it's zoomed out and you're not like up so close staring at that one berry, like if there's a whole group of them, the white Posca dots actually look pretty good. I like them. Alright. Alright guys, I was gonna try to, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. Who cares if it's a long video? Alright, so something else that we want to talk about today is going to be color harmony. How do you harmonize colors? How do you pick colors? Well, when it comes to picking colors, one of these is going to be your good friend, Pinterest. Pinterest is an awesome, awesome resource. As a matter of fact, give me just one moment. I'm going to go get my tablet and I will show you what I mean about using Pinterest for a resource. Bear with me just one second. All right, I have the goodies now so I can show you a little bit more about how I pick colors for coloring books. And I've decided to skip the tablet because it's just going to be a really bad glare. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. First and foremost, if you don't have one of these, it's the Rainbow Color Selector, and it's made for quilters originally, but it's perfect for coloring books too in the way that it works. And I've already done a video on this, but it's been a long time ago. But I'll show you how it works again here very, very shortly. So one of the first things that you can do is go to Pinterest and just type in color palette. You can type in any word before color palette to find a specific kind. So let's say that you want a blue color palette, just type in blue color palette. You want a springtime color palette, type in springtime color palette. Ocean, you can type in ocean color palette. You can type in galaxy color palette, anything you can imagine. And when you get to Pinterest and you do that, it'll show you just endless possibilities, a lot from places like Design Seeds. If you do not have a Pinterest account, I would recommend making one. It is super simple to use. It is really easy. If I can use it, I'm pretty sure anybody can. And you can make different boards. So you can make your own boards and pin things onto those boards. So it's like a digital set of cork boards. So you can create a folder or a board for spring, one for summer, one for fall, one for winter, one for brights, one for pastels. And if you go to my Pinterest page, it's linked down in the description box. It always is in every video. You can go to my page and you can find all of my boards. And I go through probably 2 or 3 times a week and look at new palettes. And if I see one that really, really catches my eye, I'll put it on the corresponding board. So you guys are free to go there, look around, repin anything that you see that you like and use it. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples here of some pages that I've done. And we're gonna talk about how to make a coloring page cohesive. Okay, so this page is from Tenderful Enchantments by Clara Markova. I colored this a long time ago, and I believe it's Prismacolor with a Neo 2 background. So basically, this is where this little guy is going to come in handy. If you have a color palette that you've already picked, that's fantastic. This really isn't all that necessary. But if you don't want to take the trouble to go to Pinterest, you can look at this. Now I'm going to pull it up here closer to the camera so we can see what's happening. If you'll notice, there are all these different color little triangles and things happening here. Okay, so the green one here is one type of color palette. Each corner represents a color for your palette. There's a triangle one with each corner representing a color for your palette. There's the red with each corner, same thing. And then there's the green, same color each thing, and the purple. So let's say that you have a color in mind. You know for a fact that you want to have a nice royal purple in your picture. So you just point one of these corners at your purple that you want, and then you look at the other ones. Okay, so we've got the triangle here. It's pointed at the purple. So the next color, we just follow the line across. The next color is going to be orange. And then the other color is going to be green. So purple, green, and orange. There's a color palette for you. Let's say you want to do a 4-color palette. All right, so we'll turn it and we'll do the purple square on the inside. So you point the first one at your primary color, which is the purple. Then you'll have red, yellow, and like a teal green, like a green blue. So there's another color palette. You can switch it to the green. So we're going to put the green square pointed at purple. Then you'll have orange, yellow, and blue. There's another color palette. And the wonderful thing about this is there's 6 individual colors for each one with different tones and types of the color. So you can match these up too. So let's say that we're doing purple, right? And I want to find the perfect complement to this shade of purple, the one that's marked with that little tiny 2. Alright, so I'm going to come straight across the color wheel. So this is the complement. And this color with the 2 is going to be the perfect complementary color for that particular shade of purple. This little thing, I'll link to it in the description box. It'll be my Amazon affiliate link. This is kind of expensive for a color wheel. I picked mine up at Joann's. If you want to go out to Joann's and pick one up there, you can use your coupons that you have on them. or you can order it on Amazon, but you are going to pay a little bit more for the convenience of having it delivered right to your house. This is a tool I use almost every time I color a picture, one way or another. I use this thing, and I've had mine forever. It's nice heavy cardboard. It's not made out of flimsy paper, so this will serve you very well. So now that you have a color palette picked, how in the world do you decide how to put those colors on the page? Now what? Now what do you do? Okay, so here's what I do, and I'm going to try to explain this in a way that makes the most sense as possible without throwing too much information at you. Your focal point needs to be a bright, not necessarily a bright color, but your focal point needs to be a color that isn't everywhere else all over the page. So for this particular picture, the focal point, of course, is the bicycle. So if you'll notice, the bicycle is red, but nothing else around it is red, and that makes your eye go right to that bicycle. Now, because we want to make the page cohesive, I also made the candles red, and that's just to put that red somewhere else in the picture. Ideally, to make your picture as cohesive as possible, you want to have every color that you use in each part of your page. So you can divide into thirds this way, and you want to make sure that you have some of it here, some of it here, some of it here. You can divide it into thirds this way, and make sure you have some here, and some here. Or you can just make sure that you have it in a few different places throughout the page to where it's not all bunched up together, unless the place where it's bunched up together is your focal point. And I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to use this page right here as an example. So here are some berries, and I didn't really highlight them as well as I should have. Maybe I should go back in with my Posca. Excuse me. But here are the berries, and I didn't want this to be the only thing that was this color. So to create color harmony, I put it here, and I put it here on the butterfly. Alright, so the blue. So we've got these blues down here. I didn't want this to be the only place that had blue. So I've got blue here, and blue up here. The greens, I knew the greens would be everywhere because there's leaves all over the page. And then for the little things that are bursting out, these are yellow. And so I've got yellow flames in my candles. I've also got a relatively yellow-green ground going on here, and I chose this specifically for that reason, because I wanted it to pop off the little yellow spray that's coming out of the flowers up here. So basically that's how you do it. Oh, one other thing, the brighter greens. So I've got these nice dark greens. I put them both here and down here. I've got them in both places so it's spread over the page. And then I have this green, this brighter green. So I've got some here, 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 and then these are also colored in that. So there's one example. Let's go over another one. This is Villain Song by Thomas Loftomic. It's one of my favorite coloring books. It's so detailed, and I've only colored this picture in it. This is the only one I have done. And earlier when I said if you really try to do shadow and light on every single thing, it's going to take you a year and a half. This took me a year and a half. If you look at these twigs, let me hold it up so you can see it. Every single one of those twigs has its own shadow and highlight. Every single one. And that's what makes them all pop out off the page the way they do. It's what makes it look realistic-ish. It's not, clearly it isn't realistic, but you see what I'm saying. So if the sun is shining down this way, basically what I did is I had it radiating outward, for the most part, radiating outward. So you'll notice like on her dress, it's very light up here, and then the further down you go, closer to the ground, the light gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So by the time it gets down here, it's nice and dark. The same thing with the leaves. The leaves are bright on the top, and then where they lay over top of each other, there's a nice shadow there indicating that it's laying on top of that other leaf. Now for all the mushrooms around the side, I've got white Posca along the very edges of them to indicate a highlight, and then as you move back, it gets darker. So there's another good example. So by looking at this picture, and when I just told you about color harmony, all the information I just gave you, you can easily see where my focus is, and you know why. This is the focus. The sleeping fairy, angel, whatever she is, butterfly lady, she's the focus of the picture, because there is nothing immediately around her. There's nothing else that's purple. So your eye automatically gets drawn right here. because it's the only color. And of course, all the glitter, metallic glitter on the wings, that helps draw your eye in a little bit too. But because I didn't want it to be the only purple in the image, I've got purple on these flowers, and I've got purple over here. Okay? So the greens for the leaves, believe it or not, in all this mess, there's not that much as far as leaves. So I've got it spread everywhere, and I even colored these two little stems up here in the same green, just to keep things cohesive. The gold wraps all the way around the picture, but I didn't want that to be the only gold. So all these little sprays back in the back, those are also gold. And then of course the mushrooms I did in their own little color scheme of browns and like Indian reds, just to kind of keep them all together. They're already spread all over the page. There was very little I had to do. I didn't like to think about it too much. I just chose the same colors and I applied them differently on different mushrooms, and that's really all I've done here. And then we've got the nice dark blue background to kind of set everything off, and I put some like purplish gray on the clouds just to make them look fluffier. But this is how you do it, guys. This is really all you have to do. You just think about where your light is. So if my light for this picture, let's say this is the sunshine and it's just radiating from there. It's coming this way, it's coming this way, it's coming this way, it's going straight down. That's how I chose how to do this. That's why these sides of the mushrooms are lighter, these sides are darker. That's why the top of her dress is lighter, the bottom of her dress is darker. That's why I've got such deep, dark, contrasting shadows underneath the leaves, because it really makes it pop off the page. And this one is a pretty easy example of how to spread your color around the page and how to make it harmonize. So that's why I wanted to get this one out and show it to you. So if we go back to our example that we were working on earlier, if I can remember where I put the book, and I've clearly moved it somewhere and I don't know where. Let me find you another picture in this case, since let's look in Twilight Garden, since I don't know where I put the other book. Alright, so here's another picture that I colored. We're going to use the same examples and we're going to talk about this one a little bit. So this is Twilight Garden by Maria Trolla. There are two focal points in this picture. The first one, the sky, because he's the only thing that's this color. And the second one is this guy, because number one, he's the only thing that's that color. And number two, he's bright orange. So when you look at this picture, the first thing that your eye wants to see is either going to be these two things, or because I made the flowers really bright yellow, you may actually see those first. Most people are going to say the deer and the butterfly. So like earlier, like I was talking about spreading your colors around the page as much as you can, it's the same thing. And Maria pretty much did it for us here with the way that she's kind of dispersed the art. But we've got leaves, these colors are all the way around. We've got the darker greens all the way around. We've got yellows pretty much spread throughout the center from left to right. The purples are all over. So even when it's not drawn this way and you have a picture that has things scattered all around, you just want to make sure that you get some of whatever color it is that you're using into each section of your page, and that's what's really going to bring everything together for you, so it doesn't look. The first thought you should have is, what is my focal point, right? So what is my focal point? All right, the focal point's the deer. What is my color palette going to be? So now you have your color palette with 4 or 5 main colors. Then what color do I want to make my focal point? So you're going to preserve that color for your focal point. And then you're going to spread the rest of your colors out evenly around your focal point. You can use the colors from your focal point in other parts of your image as long as you don't use it excessively. You just want to use little small amounts. And in some cases, that's really going to make it pop. For example, let's say that the background hadn't been done black, right? Let's say it's pure white, and I colored this deer, and I colored his eyeball bright green, right? If there's no other green in the page and I color his eye bright green, and then I color the background with the same bright green, his eye is really going to pop, and that's going to help make him the focal point too. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. Alright guys, I am going to leave you with that. Now, I did mention in a Facebook post and an Instagram post that I am more than happy to make this into a series. So if you guys feel like there's something I didn't cover, something that you want to see explained in more detail, or if you want to see more examples, specific examples, leave a comment in the comment section downstairs and let me know what it is specifically that you want to see. If you feel like I can explain something better, if I can show it to you better. This is something that's very interesting to me, and as I said in the beginning of the video, I am not an expert and I am not an artist, but I can tell you what I've learned over the last couple of years of coloring, and I can show you how I do it. I do want to thank you very much for tuning into this video today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I do my best to get back and answer questions within the first few weeks of posting a video. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, first of all, give me a thumbs up because that helps put it in front of other people. And then go ahead and subscribe so that you'll know whenever something else comes up that I have posted. Hit the little bell, that'll help too. If you have friends who could use this, feel free to share it with them. Every little thing like that really helps out. Everything that you've seen in this video, if you go down in the description box, you will find a link to Amazon. The lowest price I can find is what I will put in that description box. Those are affiliate links. I do make a small commission when you buy something that way, but you won't pay any more for it. It's just like a referral bonus for me. That's all I've got for you today, and I'm excited to see what your all's comments say. But thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, happy coloring!